Okay, hello everyone. George Webb. You've heard the news that Charlie is dead. Charlie Kirk is dead. Um, it's not war. We're not going to conduct war. We're going to conduct an investigation. This is when they want you to go to the slaughter pen. This is when they want you to go to social media and say something about the woke movement or something like that. What we need to do is do the opposite, which is immediately go to work trying to find the people who did it. The way Well, okay, yeah, he's glorified. So, well, that means we should just kill him, right? For having free speech. We said, uh, ever since Butler, we said it's Urick, we said it's Hooper, we said they're leading the Antifa along with Senator Kane's son. They're leading the Antifa movement for trying to put down free speech at college campuses. And the reason for that is they don't want the next generation of voters to be free thinking. They don't want them to consider all the information that they have available. They don't want them to consider alternative media. They just want to teach people to do condemnation of right wing values. And so um, it's it's amazing how you don't need MK Ultra. That what MK Ultra found is you need 30 days and you need to do all this deprivation. You don't need to do that. When you have Uric and Hooper, you don't need to do that. It looks like they all already ran. This is the thing I don't want to do. I appreciate the sentiment about Democrats and so forth, but what you don't want to do is glittering generalities right now. You want to zoom in right on the key suspects because this is when the evidence collection is so important, right? When you get the crime scene, it's so important that you get to the crime scene, get to the witnesses, get to the information, get to the videos, get to the forensics, get to the shooter locations, get the eyewitness reports. Again, in any of these situations, you don't want to let everybody uh, go away. You want to start interviewing. You want to build a map of where everyone is standing. You want to gather all the information. This is what happened at Butler, where everybody went in different directions. No, he's not stable. The president tweeted out he's dead. So when the president tweets it out, I imagine he's getting pretty good information. So we're going on that. But again, Michael from New Jersey, thanks for checking in. The Really, your Antifa guys do the murder, and now you have the guts to come here and say it's drivel. If somebody shot your mother, for the person who made that comment, would you say, "Well, this is drivel"? You know, if somebody shot your mom, would you go, "Well, it's just the what happens"? No, you wouldn't say that. You'd say, let's get the killer," and that's what we're here to do. So I'm going to ignore that and just move on and say, yes, TriCast is confirming. The What we have to make sense of this, and we've done this ever since Trump's. We went to all the events in Ohio and Michigan that we could get to, neighborhood news. Were we there just waving our banners and so forth? No, we were there going 3 hours early to these events. We were making sure they had dogs that could sniff out the crime dogs that could sniff out the gunpowder, because the magnetometers can be jimmied, they can be beaten, they can be disabled and so forth, but the dog will respond. So yeah, I know that there are other larger issues, but right now Charlie Kirk is dead. And the most important thing is we get Hooper and we get Urick, right? And get to them, get to Senator Kane's son and start the questioning. Dan Bongino, this is where you have to grow a pair. Cash Patel, this is where you've got to get your head out of your ass, right? Now's the time. I hate to say it in that way, but you guys kind of, yeah, they want you to overreact, and so don't overreact. But fortunately, we've done a huge amount of research into the Antifa organization. We've looked at their state sponsorship from Senator Kane. We've looked at their funding mechanisms. We've looked at the Islamic Society of North America, if this is stimulated of that. We've looked at the trans shooter training organizations. We've done an extensive, why do they say the shooter got away? Because he did. That's why. It looks like they're running what they call a white rabbit operation. A white rabbit is somebody that acts guilty and kind of runs off in the other direction, and everyone jumps and arrests him, and then the white rabbit has no gun. So that allows the escape of your black rabbit. So there's a white rabbit and a black rabbit in these situations. We've talked about it for 7 years, 8 years now, the white rabbit. This is what's happening. So this is a conspiracy. This is not one person to get away with the gun. Again, you put a little bit of a yellow fence. You get it at. I've written about this in my Substacks. I can't count how many times I've talked about Kevin Timmer sniffing dogs over the last year and a half. I think we got Venoki in Indio that way. But you just get one of those things at Costco, a roll of that orange tape, the orange kind of construction tape. You put it around. You have a couple control points, and you have the sniffing dog there. No matter how big it is, you don't need a big fence. You don't need spend a lot of money. You just have one little construction, that little orange cyclone construction fence. It's plastic. It comes in a roll. You can buy 200 feet at a time. And then you have one control point where you have the Kevin Timmer sniffing dog. That stops a lot of people right there and then. Right now, it could be that he was shot from a building, right, and the escape is through a building. It looks like maybe that might be what happened. So the sniffing dog might have not worked in this environment, but we'll see. But again, I didn't see any dogs there in trying to chase the killer. Right, the first thing you want to do is go through the buildings with all the dogs and see if you smell gunpowder. That's the first thing you do. I didn't see any crime sniffing dogs there with the Kevin Timmer dogs. So again, we're going to find out who did this. I want to know where Hooper is. I want to know where Urich is right now. I want to know where the white van is right now if it didn't go into the Ohio. I want to know, because these guys work the college circuit. They've attacked Charlie Kirk's events before. Those are the people you develop on your crime board. When after a crime happens, you put them on your crime board, you put the suspects, and you start aggressively looking for information. You don't wait for information to come to you. You start aggressively going out for the key individual suspects. You start pulling phones, you start pulling video, and you start building a 3D model of the crime scene so that you can reconstruct the crime scene as closely as possible. This is the same sort of thing that you see now with Dealey Plaza, but you don't wait for the evidence to spoil. You get it as quickly as you can. They need to investigate why did they arrest the old man in shorts. That's called a white rabbit. You have somebody who runs off the other direction, acts like he's the shooter. That's the white rabbit. Everybody runs after that, and then the black rabbit gets away, right? Or the fox. Sometimes they call it the fox. The fox gets away. The white rabbit diverts everyone, and this happens sometimes in fox hunts, where all the dogs are running after the fox, and all of a sudden they release the white rabbit. Everybody goes. All the dogs go after the white rabbit, and then the fox gets away. Let's see. Preparing for 9/11. Tomorrow is 9/11. There was a person that we found a Glock on Trump's golf course in Virginia when we went out there near Chantilly. You may remember out a little bit further out west in Virginia, they found a Glock and a handgun again on Trump's golf course. Again, the Secret Service lapse is just incredible at this point. But anyway, yeah, I feel terrible, but I would feel worse. I would have more mourning if we hadn't done so much preparation to prevent this. If our citizen journalists, I think, I think we get credit for Venokian for sure, but all along the way, we just made it difficult. You just got to make it difficult for the shooters. You got to make it difficult for the shooters. At the Trump events, they were all on college campuses. We went to all of them, and we made sure that someone was looking at all the rooftops. We made sure that somebody was having enfilade with surveillance drones, and made sure that they were checking the rooftops. This is before Butler, right? When we went out to all the different locations in Michigan and Ohio. Now, I know Secret Service, you should think this is their job. They should do this. Talk about Butler. What happened then? These people don't like Trump, right? They're letting these lapses occur. And this is why we have to be ever vigilant, as we always are. It won't make there's nothing we can do that make an impact. This is completely the opposite of the truth, right? As a matter of fact, we can make a tremendous impact. We already have made a tremendous impact. Let's call the election the biggest impact. So we make a tremendous impact. There's going to be all sorts of naysayers and black pillars saying this is the end of society and we can't do anything about this. Yeah, we can. And if they would have listened, this wouldn't have happened. So Charlie Kirk is dead. Charlie retweeted a lot of my stuff. It's so sad and so preventable, so avoidable. Thank you for doing. What can we do as citizens to help? The big thing, sharing the videos is of course helpful. Retweeting the Substack is of course helpful. I can't count how many times we've talked about security. I can't count. We're raising the crime sniffing dogs at Neighborhood News. We're doing the same thing for cancer and disease sniffing dogs at Neighborhood News. So we're doing as much as we can. We talk about Kevin Timmer almost on every broadcast we have for a year and a half, and his crime sniffing dogs. And we go out, and the thing you can do is when you go out to a Trump event and you're standing in line, start taking pictures of the areas like we have recommended people to do to get an assessment of the security situation. Tweet it out and say, oh, it looks like security is pretty lax. That forces people to respond, right? They have to respond. They got to go, well, we better put somebody on that roof, or we better put a mall cup on that roof with an $8 lawn chair, right? Or we better put a crime tape, or we better get a Girl Scout troop out here. One Girl Scout with a Kevin Timmer dog stops this crime. One Girl Scout or Boy Scout with a Kevin Timmer dog stops this crime. So thanks for coming back on. What can citizen journalists do to help? That's what you can do. Drop the Vegas junkets. Yeah, he is kind of in on he's a superhero in India, and it's 1.3 billion people, and he's the most famous person in India now, and he's kind of trying to like sex symbols of the FBI. And I just think that's just the wrong way to go. I'm not trying to. I'm not. If I hadn't been in his office all through Trump Russia, I guess I'd feel differently. But you can't be lost in the sauce. You got to focus on what you're there to do. All the other stuff is just window dressing. You got to focus on the mission. Very sad for his family. We're going to do everything. We're going to do everything we can for those kids. Aaron, we're going to make sure those kids get to be the best kids that they could ever be. We're going to make sure those kids have the best education that they can ever have. I was on the phone with doctors trying to get Charlie a second opinion on his radiography, so to make sure he wouldn't die, make sure we get the blood stopped. And I'm going to let you go. Thanks, everybody, for joining. We're going to Utah. We're going to get all the information. We're going to find out where these guys were. We're going to find out who did this.